Good things take time, and science is no exception. But come on, a 500-year-long experiment? Sometimes it really does take decades, or even centuries, to make useful observations about the world. After all, a human life is just a tiny blip on the scale of the universe. So let's take a look at a few research projects that lasted way longer than anyone could ever have expected. Here are 6 of the longest-running experiments of all time. To kick things off, we have the dark fly experiment that was launched in 1954. For more than 60 years, researchers raised fruit flies completely in the dark. That's about 1,500 generations of flies. A lot can happen across 1,500 generations, and these researchers were looking for changes in the fly's genome as they adapted to the dark environment. Over the decades, they observed several important changes. For one, when finally exposed to a little bit of light, the dark flies were better at sensing it than the control group, meaning their sight was not completely gone. And maybe it's no surprise, the dark flies were way better at living in the dark than regular flies were. Specifically, they reproduced far more successfully than their traditionally reared cousins. Because after so many generations of life in the dark flies had developed slightly longer head bristles and a more sensitive sense of smell, enhancing their ability to live without sight. Researchers identified dozens of genes that differed from normal flies, and therefore might be the genetic adaptations that accumulated in response to the dark conditions. The most recent dark flies experiment was published in 2020, but nothing else has been published since then. It seems that the dark fly strain might have ended. It does take a lot of time, effort, and research funding to maintain special projects like this. Luckily, their genome has been archived. Researchers can still mine their genetic code for insight to adaptations animals pick up when raised in the pitch black. Speaking of pitch, let's head over to the physics department to check out the pitch drop experiment that was set up in 1930. Pitch can be derived from natural or man-made tar and was traditionally used to waterproof things like boats. It's so viscous at room temperature that it appears to be solid. You could even shatter it with a hammer. Yet it's still a fluid, meaning it will flow, but you better settle in because watching pitch drip is infinitely more boring than watching paint dry. In 1927, the first physics professor at the University of Queensland heated up some pitch and poured it into a funnel. He waited 3 years for the pitch to settle in the funnel, and then he sliced off the tip and waited for the pitch to drip out. It took 8 years for the first drop of pitch to detach, and in 95 years, it has only dripped 9 times total. The funniest part is that all of those drops happened without any observers, usually over the weekend or a holiday break. In 1988, a physics professor was eagerly awaiting the 7th drop, but he stepped out into the hallway to get a drink of water, and when he returned, the drop had already detached. In 2000, a video camera was set up to record the 8th drop, but a power outage at the fateful moment meant the 8th drop also went unobserved. Finally, the 9th drop was captured on livestream in 2014. The watch for the 10th drop is ongoing, and you can tune into the livestream for yourself. It's been 11 years since the 9th drop fell, so you better head over there soon. It could fall any minute now. There's another, even older experiment that's equipped with a live stream. It's called the centennial bulb, and it was installed in 1901. It's been burning for 124 years, and although it wasn't originally designed as an experiment, scientists are keeping a close eye. Back when it was manufactured, practical light bulbs had only been around for about 20 years. Thomas Edison patented the incandescent light bulb in 1879, and the factory that produced the centennial bulb was founded in 1896. They made bulbs in the Edison style, hand-blown glass, and a carbon filament, with the interior vacuum pumped to remove the air. The centennial bulb was actually part of the last wave of incandescent bulbs made with carbon-based filaments. In 1904, tungsten took over as the filament of choice, and was probably in the incandescent bulbs that you grew up with. Originally, the centennial bulb glowed with a power of 60 watts, but over the decades, its output has dropped to about 4 watts. It was transported a few times during its lifetime, and it was eventually moved to a dedicated power source to ensure its stability. But besides those short windows without power, it's continuously burned since its installation in 1901. It's an unassuming bulb in a California firehouse, but it has captured international attention as the poster child of planned obsolescence. See, in the 1920s, light bulb manufacturers got together and agreed to only produce bulbs that burned out after 1,000 hours. So all the major research on bulbs went into limiting their lifespan, not extending it. Several groups of scientists have analyzed light bulbs from the same factory as the centennial bulb, trying to figure out what makes them so long-lasting compared to tungsten filament bulbs, or even other Edison-style bulbs from the era. But they still aren't quite sure what makes the centennial bulb so special, and they're afraid to unscrew it to find out. Once it reaches its natural death, perhaps an autopsy will reveal its secret to longevity. Before I tell you about an even longer-running experiment, we gotta keep these lights on. Here's a quick ad.
Thank you for watching SciShow. Every time you watch one of our videos, it helps them get out to even more people. Thank you for supporting the channel with your time. To support more fact-checked educational stuff here from SciShow, Crash Course, and our other awesome channels, go to complexlylearnathon.com. From now until November 21st, we're hosting live streams, learning challenges, even a private Discord for fans of learning. You can take a free workshop on science writing, play a trivia game, or watch a TTRPG live stream featuring some people from the SciShow team. Go to complexlylearnathon.com to check it out.
Though the centennial bulb became an experiment by accident, our next example was intended to be a long-term project from the start. In 1879, Professor William James Beal buried a bunch of seeds with decades of experimentation in mind. He was curious how long seeds could remain dormant before germinating, so he mixed 23 different seed types with sand and buried them in glass bottles to prevent water from infiltrating the seeds. After 5 years, he dug up the first bottle and found that the seeds germinated when planted and watered. And for the next 40 years, a bottle was unearthed in 5-year increments. After that, the interval was extended to 10 years. On the 100th anniversary of the experiment, the interval was extended to 20 years. The most recent bottle was dug up in 2021, and 4 bottles remain. Every single time, some of the seeds have germinated. Without this systematic experiment, we wouldn't know that seeds can remain dormant for more than 140 years. And this dormancy is crucial for seed banks. For example, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault stores backup copies of the genetic material encoded in seeds, useful in case of disaster or disease that wipes out entire crops. We still don't know just how long seeds can remain dormant before germinating successfully. Even the remaining bottles in the Beal seed experiment might not be buried long enough to really find out. Seeds are nature's way of storing chemical energy for future use, but it wasn't until the mid-1800s that humans figured out how to do the same. In 1840, someone created a rudimentary chemical battery and hooked it up to a bell. This is the Oxford electric bell, or sometimes it's called the Clarendon dry pile because it's housed at the Clarendon lab at the University of Oxford. No, Oxford doesn't have a case of collective tinnitus. This bell really has been ringing for 185 years. A small metal ball oscillates between 2 bells, striking them twice per second. The candle-looking pillars in this contraption are the power source. They're called dry piles, and they create a charge difference between the 2 bells. Each time the clapper ball touches a bell, it picks up a small charge that forces it to swing back toward the other bell. Each of these cycles dissipates a very tiny amount of charge, which explains why the dry piles still aren't fully depleted. No one is quite sure what the dry piles are made from, but they're probably like other dry piles of the era, made from alternating layers of metal foil and paper coated with manganese dioxide. These layers are sealed up with a sulfur coating. It's an early version of a chemical battery, and might have been created specifically as a demonstration that chemicals could hold electric charge. The dry piles create a voltage by controlling the flow of electrons, and power this nearly 200-year-old bell. Since we can't look inside the dry piles, we don't know how much longer the bell will continue ringing. Just like the centennial bulb, we've just gotta wait for it to burn itself out. But fun fact, the French word for a non-rechargeable battery is still une pile. Before we get to our final long-term experiment, I want to give rapid-fire shout-outs to some honorable mentions. Starting with an experiment that's tracked over 80,000 generations of E. coli. The long-term evolution experiment only began in 1988, which is why it didn't quite make this list. But 80,000 generations is eons to an E. coli. And since the E. coli have to be transferred every 22 to 26 hours, that's a lot of missed vacations for the research team. They freeze samples at 500 generation intervals. That's about every 75 days. The The result is a hugely comprehensive evolution experiment revealing insights to generational adaptation. There's also been some super long-term surveys of human development, such as the Framingham Heart Study that began in 1948. For more than 75 years, doctors have monitored a cohort of participants for signs of cardiovascular disease. At the beginning, everyone in the study cohort were adults, but eventually the study expanded to follow the original cohort's offspring, starting when some of them were children. Then some of the offspring's children were also recruited to join the study once they were adults. That's 3 generations of documented heart health. Geological regions are also subjects of long-term monitoring. Scientists started monitoring glacier retreat in the Juneau ice field starting in 1946. And the first volcano observatory was established in 1841 to monitor seismological activity of Vesuvius. Lastly, I'd like to argue that domestication and selective breeding are experiments that humans have been running for millennia. We've bred plants like teosinte and brassicas into crops that are dependable, easy to grow and harvest, plus tasty to eat. Domesticated animals like sheep and goats are quite distinct from their wild cousins, mouflon and ibex. These experiments all date back about 10,000 years, and it sure doesn't seem like we'll be giving them up anytime soon. But let's get to that grand finale. An experiment designed to last 500 years. This one was initiated in 2014, but it's fully intended to last until 2514. Much like Beal's seed experiment, the 500-year experiment will test the viability of desiccated microbes. The idea was inspired by a dried petri dish that one of the researchers accidentally left in a box for 10 years. He rediscovered the dish and was able to revive the dried-up microbes, which got him wondering how long they could survive in such a parched state. The researchers desiccated 2 types of bacteria and sealed them in glass vials. For the first 24 years, one set of vials will be opened every 2 years. After that, a set will be uncorked in 25-year increments for the next 475 years. The experiment will conclude on June 30th, 2514. The timescale of this experiment reveals just how little we actually know about the tenacity of life. Researchers hope they'll learn how molecules like lipids, protein, and DNA degrade over time. The answers could have applications in astrobiology, drug storage, and space travel. In 2018, the research team published a follow-up to their initial paper. The results from the first few vials were ready. At that point, there didn't seem to be any significant decreases in viability, except a portion of the desiccated microbes were exposed to space-like vacuum or high concentrations of table salt, and those microbes didn't end up doing so hot. No word about the other vials yet, but I'll make a calendar alert to check in on the experiment's 50th birthday in 2064. Science is beautiful because it continually builds on previous knowledge to gradually expand our understanding of the world. It's only possible to learn new things because our species has been systematically learning for tens of thousands of years. In the grand scheme of the universe, an individual human just doesn't live that long. So some experiments need to last much longer than any one of us will be around for. There are some things that only time can tell.